Isn't it interesting how the very technology most artists and musicians are scared of could actually be their biggest secret weapon? See, we all know the rumors, right? AI is going to come in and it's going to replace all artists. Or, AI is going to come in and it's going to be the end of true creativity. But what if a huge opportunity was right in front of us? I mean, imagine having a creative partner that never sleeps, has the ability to spark ideas, polish your tracks, or even do things that are minute and tedious, and do those things for you so that you can focus on what actually matters, making music that connects with people, okay? So in this video, I'm going to be sharing with you how to supercharge your process using AI, why it won't actually affect your humanity at all, and the mindset shifts necessary to turn AI into an unstoppable creative ally. So if you've ever been torn between fear and fascination, or just want to figure out what the next big thing to help independent artists is, this is where it all begins. So let's dive in. The first thing that we need to understand with how we can use AI in our favor as a secret weapon is productivity, okay? So when it comes down to it, there's a lot of little tasks in our music business. Those of you that have been doing this for a while know very well that there's a lot of different things to be done and there's not enough time in a given day to do all the things. And so that can lead to overwhelm and just fear and just a bunch of stuff, right? So what are the tasks that AI can help us automate and take care of a majority of the work for us, so that we can save our time and actually be more productive as a consequence? So the first place that we need to look into this is content, okay? There are so many different ways to utilize AI to improve the productivity of your content. The first thing that you can do is try to come up with different hooks, okay? So for example, you can describe all the elements of the video that you're trying to upload. You can present the context and the desired goal of this piece of content to, let's say, ChatGPT, right? A free AI language modeler. You could present all this information to it and it will give you hooks based on your goal, and how well you're able to craft these prompts will ultimately determine how good of results you get from the AI softwares. So you have to really be specific. Don't be like, write hooks for my video, I'm a rock band. That's very vague. Write something like, I have a video where we're performing in front of a live audience, and I want people to feel like they need to be at the show and they missed out by not being at the show. What is a hook that I can put together for my piece of content that's casual in tone, but also subtly incorporates a little bit of FOMO? See how specific that prompt was? By the way, it's easier if you speak it into the voice command as opposed to trying to type that all out. Little another hint to save you some time there. But you get the idea. That's a super specific prompt, right? I tried to leave out no details. What's the goal? What's the environment? How do I want them to perceive it? All these things. And the AI will start giving you some great responses. I've used AI in the past to help me figure out what pieces of content have resonated with my audience the best. I look at, did they resonate when we were performing music video shots or posting those things? Did they perform better when we were doing, covers? Did they perform better when we were doing this? I'll go through it. I'll read the data to ChatGPT and it'll help me with it, right? So content is great because it can figure out like, oh yeah, these would be great ideas based on your best performing pieces of content. Well, that's pretty cool. Now, it can help you productivity-wise because instead of sitting around thinking about what's the perfect hook to put over this video, you can go into ChatGPT and get 10 hooks that will trigger or inspire what the actual hook is going to be. Now, heck, you may see the actual hook that's 100% ready to go in the ChatGPT response. But even if you had to take the response, edit it just a little bit, and now you've got a really great hook, you've saved a lot of time as opposed to sitting around and trying to come up with the whole thing by yourself, okay? Now, speaking of coming up with the whole thing by yourself, where a lot of artists struggle to implement something that's very valuable for their business, but takes a lot of time for a lot of people, is email lists. Now, we've talked on this channel about the power and the importance of email lists, but nobody wants to sit in front of a blank canvas, so to speak, a blank screen, and try to come up with a whole email off the top of their head. If you haven't done that many times, it's very difficult to do, right? Even for me, who's someone who's done this hundreds and thousands of times, it still is difficult to start from a blank canvas sometimes, unless you're just crystal clear on what you want to say and what the goal is. So with ChatGPT and softwares like this, what we can do is figure out how to craft an email from a certain perspective. So again, I wouldn't say something like, write me a welcome email for my email list. It's too vague, right? I would say, I'm a country artist. I have a welcome email that gives people X, Y, and Z gifts. Communicate this in a fun or casual tone and drive a call to action for people to join or follow me on social media, right? Now the ChatGPT software or whatever you're using can start to actually produce something that's aligned with your goals. Then you just copy it, paste it into your MailChimp or your Drip or your ActiveCampaign, wherever your email service provider is. You paste it in there, make the necessary edits so that it feels a little bit more like you. You go in there, you check to make sure it sounds good, it sounds cohesive, it's what you want to say. Boom, you hit send. And that can take what, would be normally for some like an hour-long activity and condense it down to like 10, 15 minutes. It can be very, very, very streamlined. And heck, you could write multiple emails in the time that it would take some people to write one email. And that's great because then you can build automated sequences and those things are great, right? So you have to understand that AI is not here to, it's like a South Park episode, hey, take our jobs, That's not how I would view AI. And that's not how I currently view AI. I view AI as a tool, right? It's a tool that's to be used to help us be more productive, okay? Now, whether these are like lyrical ideas or, I've had situations where I've written out a bunch of lyrics, but there was this one line I couldn't figure out what I wanted to say or what was the best thing to say there. So I would go into ChatGPT, paste the lyrics, and have like an X or a blank line and be like, hey, what would be some good options that could go in this blank line where the meaning of the song is X, Y, and Z, and I'm trying to communicate this feeling, but I don't know which words to use. Now you can get like 5, 10 options of some different phrases that will get the gears turning, and all of a sudden now you're like, yeah, I know exactly what to say, okay? So AI is here to help you be more productive. It's here to help you save time so that you can spend more time on the music and less time on all the business administrative kind of stuff. And that kind of takes me into the second way that AI can really help us out in our music business, which is at the administrative level, okay? So what does that mean? So there's certain softwares that you can use for bookkeeping, right? Now, AI is great for bookkeeping in the sense of planning and strategy, right? I've utilized it for different budgetary things, like how much do I need to put away into a certain account so that if it grows at X percent, I'm going to get to this dollar amount, right? Like any kind of in-depth key performance indicators that you need to measure, or, your expenses versus your income, even in a rough sense, roughly speaking, this is how much I spend every month. This is how much I make every month. Extrapolate this over 12 months with 5% up or down, right? You can have it help you figure out what's the best way to be lean and mean with your budget. What are the things that, you can prioritize in your budget potentially? There's other kind of things like that. There's data analysis period, where it can take data and analyze it in such a way that helps give you information that allows you to make a better decision. So one of the ways that I've kind of mentioned in this is when I'm creating a piece of content, I'm not just thinking on the one side that I told you, which is like, okay, what's the best hook that I can use? What's the best, caption that I can write for this piece of content? It's not just that. I also look at it from the perspective of, here are the titles and thumbnails that have performed the best in my last, few months. From this information, create some titles and captions that are very similar to what my best performing ones are, and let's try to reverse engineer it. And then it will say, okay, well, let's try to reverse engineer that. Let's think about this is performed this way, this is performed this way. Let's try to make a video about this, and let's see if that's hitting those places that the other videos have clearly shown to be interesting to your audience. So it helps you break down data faster, and so you can make better decisions about your business, okay? So again, this could be in the area of content, it could be in the area of your offers, it could be in the area of advertisements. It can just help you out where you're trying to figure out, okay, based on my budget, how much can I spend per month? Like, it can just help take a lot of the math and the sitting down and calculating all these things. Like, I remember doing this stuff by hand. Like, for example, me and my clients, we have access to a tool called the Merch Automator tool. And the Merch Automator tool is fundamentally something that I used to do in my head back in 2014. before I turned it into a spreadsheet until I eventually turned it into a software and all this kind of stuff, where you are fundamentally figuring out how much merch do I need to sell, at what price point, and how much do I save from every transaction so that I can afford to buy a new round of shirts and I have profit left over. And it's automating your merch because you earn enough from the merch that you can buy more merch. And if you know what you need to save when you buy the new merch, you can sell enough to buy another round, and the whole time you're profiting. So that's one way of like looking at data analysis and using AI and things like that to kind of help figure that out. Now, before I move on to this next one, I need people to understand something about AI. There's a lot of overhype about what AI is. There's some really great stuff that it's able to do. Do not get me wrong. Like when it comes down to like what I mentioned earlier about writing out the, emails for you, helping you write out words on your landing pages, the sales copy as it's called. It can be fantastic for this kind of stuff. But people don't understand the limitations of this, where some people don't understand that it's just automated language modelers that most people associate with AI. But people in their head have this very sci-fi version of AI in their head that it's like Ex Machina, or what's that movie called? It's iRobot. Listen, there may come a time way in the future that something similar to that may be happening. But this over hyperbolic way that we talk about AI is not helpful, because for a lot of us, AI is just a very fancy automated system. That's all it really is. And it's an automated system of communication, or it's an automated system of performance. Think of like Opus Clip Pro. That's where you put in a long form piece of content and the AI will scan the video. It'll scan the words that you say, and it'll try to find the chunks of content that you were talking about so that it can break this long form video up into like 20 clips. Okay? So how long would it take you to sit around and find the right pieces of content to create the, from minute 10 to minute 15 was a good chunk. Let's turn that into a clip. You had to watch up to 10 minutes to figure that out, right? And all the way to 15. Where AI, Opus Pro, it just analyzes it for you, cuts it up, and does it. So there's ways that we're hyperbolizing a very fast automated formula, and we're calling it AI, and we're like making it seem like it's the Matrix. It's like the proto-Matrix. We just need to kind of calm down a little bit, where people think that AI is going to take over the world, but really what it's going to do is help you be more optimized. And this is where the last point, I kind of saved the most controversial and the best for last here, which is that I use this phrase: AI is a great budget maximizer. What does that mean? Put it this way: a lot of artists don't have the budget to go and do the things that people are demanding that they do because of their hatred for AI. So what I mean, specifically, the tasks that you cannot afford to hire out yet, you will have to do yourself. But does that mean because these are put on your shoulders because you can't afford to, let's say, hire freelancers or hire mixing engineers or hire other people, that's being put on you now? So how do you do this without being overwhelmed? You utilize the tools that help you do this. So I know a lot of people are like, you shouldn't have an AI album art because that's just lazy. And if that's how you are about your artwork, I can only imagine what your music is like. Like, all of that is stupid. Like, I hear very smart people saying the stupidest stuff about AI. Really, like, that perspective is so naive and dumb. Like, hopefully the people that are all, hopefully they are mad, because you need to be mad, but be mad at yourself for thinking something so dumb. Okay, enough throwing rocks. Let me tell you why it's dumb. People are like, you can't have AI as your artwork. It's like, well, what if that artist is in a position they can't afford to go hire a graphic designer? Okay, they're pretty poor, right? They can't afford to go and pay someone $300 to do a mix on their song. Okay, they are dirt poor. The only thing that they have is a hand-me-down laptop, a DAW on there, and they've got some files, right? what can they do? Well, there are softwares that are pretty affordable. Like if you paid for the OpenAI $20 a month ChatGPT function, you get access to DALL-E, which is a text-to-image AI creator. So this is where people get all upset. It's like you could go into DALL-E and you could help create your own album artwork just using DALL-E. And this is where people say, no, you can't do that because then the AI isn't creating anything. The AI is just taking what already exists and creating like a bastardized version of it. And I'm like, what do you think your songs are? I'm serious. What do you think your songs are? And I'm saying that about my songs too. What do you think my songs are? What is the difference between the human brain going, I'm going to take the songs I've heard through my whole life and the inspiration I have from listening to songs, and I'm going to kind of form them into this unique piece of art that's an amalgamation of other people's art. That's exactly what you do when you write songs. That's exactly what you do. And that's what the AI does. People are like, well, the AI takes other people's art and then mashes it together to create some new piece of art when it really borrowed from somebody else. I'm like, you go talk to like guitar players. Go talk to Dimebag Darrell. Well, you can't, he passed away. But if you talk to him back in the day, he would have told you, oh, this section of this Pantera song was inspired by Van Halen. That's the Van Halen riff. Are we going to look at him the way that we look at AI and go, he just took this art that already existed and then changed it around and threw his own influence on it? That's exactly what the AI is doing. That's exactly what the AI is doing. It's taking the art that's been created, that any human could be inspired by, and it's trying to create its own unique thing based on the pool of data that it's got. Well, your pool of data is your memory and your musical intuition. It's the same process. So hopefully a lot of people, hopefully this is breaking down some false beliefs for y'all out there, because some of y'all are so sad and upset and bitter about AI that you're developing this belief of like, well, if anything's AI, I'm not going to use it because AI is unethical. But you haven't even addressed how that core belief about why is AI unethical? Well, because it steals from artists. How does it steal from artists? Well, that's when it starts to kind of break down a little bit. And then people say things, well, it just takes from other artists and then meshes it together and then it creates its own thing. I'm like, that's what you do when you write stuff. That's what you do when you use words. That's what you do when you speak. Like, you're literally taking all the words you've heard before and you're formulating them in your own unique tone and your own unique presentation. Are we going to look at you and say, well, he doesn't really... it's just, to me, this idea, it misses this core, I think this is even quoted in the Bible, which is that there is nothing new under the sun, okay? So we look at each other and we give each other grace. We say, there's nothing new under the sun, so the fact that like a human wrote a song and it has some similarities to this other song, it's different enough. We're going to give them some grace. But then the AI comes out with, let's say, an album artwork that's unique enough on its own, but it's different enough from all of its inspiration. For some reason, we just can't handle because a human didn't do that. Even though it's the same process the human went through that we think is okay, all of a sudden now we think it's not okay when a machine does it. I'm just saying, and then here's the other thing too, y'all. If human beings don't exist, if human beings don't exist, AI has nothing to model. You understand? Like, the only reason that AI, like ChatGPT, can talk to you is because of humans and the data that the humans give it and then the data that it gets from the humans by interacting with it. Like, that is where, like, I don't know, like, people seem to think that, like, the AI is a unique entity. Like, I know some people that think ChatGPT is alive. It's like, guys, it is a mirror. It is showing back to us what we are. Okay, so don't put too much stock in AI too. Like, some people will see this, they'll get on the perspective like, oh, AI is going to help me, it's going to help me. But then sometimes they get a little over obsessive about it and it starts to become like, it's idolized or something. Like it's going to solve all the problems and I don't really need to think anymore because the AI knows and all this kind of stuff. So yeah, there are holes in the AI infrastructure that can lead to some bad outcomes. I'm fully aware of that. But I also believe that if artists utilize them for the proper purposes, the incentives will be to create AI that serve these proper incentives and purposes. Like, for example, if us as artists continue to use productivity AI tools, there will be a bigger and bigger market for productivity tools in AI. However, if we don't use the productivity tools and make those the market demand, instead we sit on our hands and we say, I'm not going to participate in the AI. Well, then the only people who are going to participate in the AI are the people who don't have the musical acuity, right? So think about it like this. I have a buddy who I love to death. His name is Chase, okay? He would love to be able to make music, but he's just hasn't done enough studying and he hasn't done enough practice to be able to do it. He could, but he just hasn't done the work yet, right? As every musician has to do. If musicians don't make the market for productivity-based things to help musicians who know how to make music faster, better, then the market incentives will switch over to the person who doesn't know anything about making music and just uses these little, I think it's called SUNY, or not SUNY, it starts with an S. I haven't been, Suno? S-U-N-O? I forget the name of the AI, but it's basically like, write me an alternative rock song about Burger King, and it'll crap out some basic version of an alternative rock song based on Burger King, you know? And that's what's going to become the dominant market share of AI tools if musicians don't utilize the other side of it. If we just sit on our hands and don't use the things that make our administration easier or make our productivity faster, the only people that are going to be using AI tools are going to be the people that are using it to do the shortcuts, to write this whole song for me, you know? And then that will be what people say, well, the only people really using the AI tools are using these tools, so the incentive will be to create more of these generated, done-for-you tools. So yes, if we don't play our cards right as musicians, the future for AI could look pretty grim for us. However, if we play our cards right, the future is pretty limitless. The possibilities are pretty endless about what we could do and the speed at which we could accomplish things. Like, think about this for a second. Is it a little bit disheartening to mixing engineers that there could be softwares that are created that a musician just pushes a button and a mix comes out, right? However, what I think will happen is if we play our cards right, mixing engineers will be the ones to adopt the AI tools first. You see what I'm saying? Like, if the layman public is the one that takes advantage of this before we do, we're screwed, okay? Because we as artists have to commit to be the first adopters of this technology. And if we're the first adopters of the technology, the markets will cater to the people who are adopting the technology, and therefore they will adapt to us. So if you're a mixing engineer and you're scared that there could be some app that comes out that produces a mix that's just like, wow, why would they pay me? They could just go download this app for $20 a month and they can have infinite or 10 mixes a month that are pretty good. Instead of, producers are the first ones to embrace these AI mixing tools, and they integrate them into their workflow and they master them so that even someone who is a layman who has this tool could not duplicate the results of a professional with this tool. And therefore, there will be a market of people where it's like, yeah, you can go put out some mediocre mix using this little software. Or you could work with me, who's been a professional for 15 years, and I have the ear and I have the knowledge to know how to correct these mixes and make them the best possible. If that person is using AI to help make their knowledge happen in the mixes faster and quicker and more efficiently, that's where the market will go. People will start creating services where the producers leverage AI to help people get exactly the kind of mix they're wanting, because the layman person doesn't have the knowledge to utilize these tools to their fullest capacity to get the results that someone who has the knowledge could. Okay? So you create sort of a gap that you could help fill the gap where people are like, yeah, I've got this, SUNY or Suno, I forget what it's called, thing that creates the song for me. But if I'm a songwriter who knows how to leverage AI tools to help me write better songs faster, then the person who just goes into that software and goes, write me a pop song about Burger King, You could go in and say like, listen, yeah, that's cool and all, but like, let's actually be humans about it and let's be creative about it. But that human is also leveraging AI technology. Things are just getting so exponentially better, faster, that it's a relativity game in a sense, where like right now, if you compared the most basic, rudimentary 2000s mix from like GarageBand, and you compared it to like the 1920s, it doesn't matter how bad your GarageBand files are, the quality of recording is most likely 10 times better than anything that came out of the 20s. Because I don't know if you remember the 20s, listen to any song from that era, the first thing you hear is the sound of from the it sounds like it was recorded in a toaster. It's the sound quality is terrible. But any mix from, the worst demo mix from the 90s or the early 2000s sounds 10 times better than the highest produced stuff that was on the radio in the 20s. Same thing is happening now, where, yes, with these AI tools, people will be able to make mixes that sound pretty much like the standard mix of every song nowadays. And they'll be like, see, I don't need this. However, the artists who have the knowledge will be able to create songs that sound 100 times better than the stuff that is just the standard sound, right? And then that relative positioning will make this look like less quality and this look like higher quality. It's something called comparison and contrast bias. So it doesn't matter that this mix today in 2025 from like a basic AI mixing platform or tool, something like Clinton Sparks has been working on, this compared to the 20s is like 1,000 times better. And so if you're comparing your mixes to the 20s, you're going to be like, I've got the greatest sounding mix in the world compared to the 20s. But then if you're in 2025 and someone's able to leverage that technology to make it sound 100 times better than even what's going on out today, your product will look cheap by comparison, okay? Just like your product looks cheap in comparison back in, and from that relative perspective 20 years ago. If you had someone who was in a $20,000 studio and had this big giant mix from a big producer, and then you had the dude that had the demo and the garage kind of thing, like there was a very clear distinction between who recorded what, right? It was very obvious that was cheap quality and this is good quality. But now we're going to get to the realm where things are getting so good that it's like the difference between better quality and 10 times better quality. But again, there will still be a relative position. Does that make sense? People are still going to be comparing, even if the greatest sound ever comparatively throughout history becomes the standard, it will be viewed upon less favorably than the people who are able to push beyond the standard utilizing the technology that we have. And that's the fundamental lesson that shoots this whole video, is the artists who are able to leverage the technology to push things further are going to look more favorable by comparison, okay? So I am not opposed to using AI to create your album artwork. I'm not opposed to using AI to write a piano part for you. I know. It's writing a piano part for me. It's writing something for me. It's like, well, I'm the one over here generating the prompts, generating the atmosphere that the piano even lives in. So yeah, if I have an instrument that I don't know how to play and I don't want to sit around for 3 hours and try to figure out the MIDI map of this thing, and I can just go to this AI and say, hey, AI, I'd like to hear some higher octave piano in this key at this section in my song, and it can just put out some MIDI that I can therefore adjust from the template. Why would I not want to do that? Because I'm still creating what I want to create based on my vision. It's like the whole perspective of people are mad at, oh, you're not actually a real musician, you just use samples. Like, musicianship is not the ability to perform an instrument. It's your ability to write music. Like, there's a performative aspect of music, and some people seem to conflate the performative aspect with every aspect of music. It's like, yes, there is a performative aspect to music. There are people who can perform their instrument. They can play guitar, they can play piano, they can play drums, they can do all this stuff, right? But then there's another side of it. There's the writers, the people who write the music. So to be a musician, you have to create music. And if you have music in your head and you're able to get that music from out of your head and onto a DAW using whatever tools necessary, you're good because you can't cheat at art. I'm sorry if that offends some people and their ears. Oh, he said you can't cheat on art. You can't. It's art. It's subjective. Now, business, like if you're going out there and you're using AI to make it seem like you can play a certain way, but you can't actually play that way, and you're selling people the idea that you're going to show them how to play this way that you can't even play, that is fraud. That's like the definition of fraud, okay? But if I say in a piece of music that I slowed the music down and then played my sweet picked arpeggio at 50% speed so that when I turn everything back to normal 100% tempo, it sounds like a cool sweet picked part, that's not cheating. Like I know some people say, but you can't do it. I'm like, I also can't reproduce the exact synthesizer sounds from my MIDI keyboard. But does that mean I'm cheating because I don't know the exact sine waves and square waves and saw waves to adjust to create the specific synth oscillation that I want? No. I'm using the technologies. It's knives and forks. And hopefully that's the big picture lesson that you take away from this. Is like, it's one thing to sit down, have the AI generate everything for you, and then you pretend like you had any part in the creative process of that. And it's another thing to utilize these tools to help get the music to where you're trying to get it to actually make the visions you have in your head as an artist come to life, and come to life easier so that you don't have to spend all the time learning how to be a mixing engineer, learning how to be a graphic designer, learning how to do all the little minutia, the minute tasks that we would waste our time on as a musician, when really what we should be focusing on is creating music and creating more and more and more music and marketing that music out to as many people as possible. So AI, ultimately, I believe, is going to be something that if we leverage it properly, can be our biggest secret advantage and our secret weapon to help us be more productive, get stuff done, and have more time to do what we actually love, as opposed to this dystopian vision that, you know, artists are going to be eliminated and blah, 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 blah. I just personally don't believe that. You know, everyone put all these hypes and stuff around the metaverse. Remember what happened with all that? Everyone got caught up in the could versus should, right? Yes, you can, with AI, have it write all the lyrics, have it write all the music, have it do all the mixing, have it do every aspect of it that you just literally were a prompt generator. Yeah, you can do that. But is that really what you should do? Is that what people are going to resonate with? Just like people are like, you know, virtual things are becoming, you know, virtual events are becoming more and more common. Well, guess what? The Luminate annual report showed that virtual event attendance is down. Why? There was a time where virtual event attendance had to be up because there was a pandemic. But now that that's gone, people would rather see something in person and be real. So the people who are real and able to leverage this technology will just stand out even more than the people who try to use the technology to create some emotionless, they're not even really involved in the creative process crap. You know what I'm saying? So have some optimism. Have some belief in yourself that you're going to be the type of musician to leverage AI so that you can get more done, do less better, and actually start to see some progress in your music business, as opposed to these artists who are sitting around waving their fist at the sky. I mean, before AI, they were waving their fist at TikTok, and before that, they were waving their fist at Facebook, and before that, they were waving their fist at MySpace, and then Napster. Like, you don't want to be one of those people that's just waving their fist at the sky like, this could change for the better at some point and go back to the good old days. It's like fat chance that that's ever going to happen. What you should do is look at how you can leverage what's in front of you so that you can get the most done with what you have. And that's what AI allows you to do. So if you can't afford to hire a freelancer or a mixing engineer or all these people, there are tools out there to help you get more done by yourself if you're a genuine creative who has a drive and a passion to do something legitimate, right? So I hope you got a ton of value from this video. If you learned a lot, hit the subscribe button, the like button, the notification bell, all that kind of good YouTube-y stuff. And if you would like some one-on-one help with your music business, there's a link in the description to apply for a one-on-one coaching call to potentially work with us. We do have some limited spots. So if that's something that's interesting to you, click the link that's in the description. Otherwise, I will see you guys on another video inside of Musicians Ignite. Take care.